All right, why don't we jump right into our headline topic here today, which is AI agents gaining steam.
Yeah.
Why don't I read it, and then you can spend the next 25 minutes talking about what I read.
Sure, go for
There's
it.
been a surge in development of AI agents.
Interjection.
These are applications that allow large language models to operate semi-autonomously by feeding prompts to themselves until they have achieved a broad, general goal given to them by the user.
Sort of correct.
Currently trending on GitHub is AutoGPT, which uses GPT-4 to generate, prioritize, and execute tasks using plugins for internet browsing and other access. It uses outside memory to keep track of what it's doing and provide context, which lets it evaluate its current situation, generate new tasks, or self-correct and add new tasks to the queue, which it then prioritizes. AutoGPT currently has a notable tendency to become distracted or confused when given complex goals, often getting caught in recursive loops and leaving tasks half finished. Users have been creating tools that allow AutoGPT to perform more tasks, including one that allows it to access and use Bitcoin wallets. Before I go any further, do you want to talk a little bit about AI agents? You said that my definition was not quite correct, so I invite you to give a better one.
Yeah, it mentioned something about them being able to just give themselves more than one prompt.
Yes.
But a big part of the idea is that they can use other systems. So like they can use an image generator, they can use some other model, whatever, services that aren't even AI based, etc. They can call out to other services. They don't just have to use their own stuff. Also, I like that we're calling them AI agents. AutoGPT has been used as like a what I'm calling like a Kleenex term.
Right.
Like a lot of people have been calling all of them AutoGPT, even though there is one specific one called AutoGPT. Whatever. The AutoGPT name is actually really good, which is why I think that's happening. Other people are calling them like baby AGI. I don't like that.
Sorry,
Not a fan of that.
artificial general intelligence?
Yeah, but they're calling it like a baby version because it can like task out to other things and improve on itself and do stuff like that.
This is like the whole thing where we rebranded machine learning as AI when that's not really
what it is,
right? That's just branding. We rebranded driving assists as autopilot.
Yeah, like
I promise we're not
like
going to
that
talk
term.
about him the whole show.
I do really like, yeah, AutoGPT is a fantastic name. There's a bunch of these systems. There's actually a load, like a huge amount of them, because it's the trend right now. And in this whole space, if something catches on even slightly, you can absolutely bet there will be a ton of it almost immediately.
Now, you've given some examples of things that people are doing with these agents on past shows, but is there new stuff that's come to light this week, or just a refresher for those of us who... Right now, it sounds very vague and nebulous. Well,
Yeah.
It can call to stuff and it can do things. What are some of the things people are doing with this?
So basically with what most people currently have access to, if all they do is like go to OpenAI's website, is GPT-4 or 3.5 or below. And with that, you can usually get the steps that you would need to do to accomplish something.
Sure.
If you asked it how to do it.
How do I build a computer? Right. So instead of how do I build a computer and it listing steps, you could say, how do I build a computer? And it could actually just like order for me.
Potentially, if you hooked it up to the right things, because like someone has actually used it to buy their groceries for the week. They're like, I need recipes for a week. These are the types of things that I like. This is the grocery store, whatever. They hooked it up to some grocery delivery service that I don't remember the name of, and it actually purchased the groceries and made it so that like, oh, you bought a can of this, you only need X amount of it for one meal, but I picked a different meal, so you're not eating the same thing all the time, that will use the rest of it in order to be efficient. Like it did all this stuff that was really, really good. It planned their meals for the week. It ordered everything for them. It gave them recipes for all of the meals, and it efficiently used the ingredients.
Do you remember when microtransactions took off in mobile games? And every other flippin' WAN show, we were talking about some kid going to town on mom or dad's credit card, buying a bunch of jewels or Twitch bits or whatever else it is, racking up thousands of dollars. How long is it going to be before someone sues OpenAI for ChatGPT spending a whole bunch of their money when they were the ones who were irresponsible enough to give it their credit card.
Oh, it's going to be a problem. You mentioned in here connecting it to Bitcoin wallets, right?
Yeah.
Well, people are using that to use GPT-style models to bet on markets for them.
No.
That is 100% already happening.
No.
There is even these websites where you can get like auto trading bots for like coin exchanges. And they already have, like, you can build your own bot using GPT models and give it its own weights and everything using that instead of needing to code it yourself, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, it's getting pretty nuts. I was reading one thread on a person who spent, I think they said roughly 8 hours, like, tuning things in and whatnot, working with, I believe it was AutoGPT specifically, but I don't fully remember. And they made a tool. I don't remember what the tool did, but they got like 1,000 users for their tool and were able to sell their like startup company all within like a week, which is that's crazy.
Yeah, people are also talking about, I forget who I was talking to, but they were saying they know of someone who basically gave it a little bit of money and said, go build an online business. It built it. Got like 1,000 users or something like that in some obscenely short period of time, and then sold it.
Yep. There's also someone has actually even just asked it, get me money, without giving it any money. And what it did is it like asked them for some of their like personal details and stuff, and it scraped government websites, and it scraped websites that do what is it called? When there's like a lawsuit or something, you like bought a product and you
recalls.
get
or like
you get
class
money
action.
back. Yeah, so it scraped like class action lawsuit things, and it grabbed everything it could for them, like different grants from government because of whatever details about the person and whatever class action lawsuits they were eligible to get money from, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it made them like a few $100. Like it wasn't even that small of an amount of money.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. There's a really cool experiment. Do you want to keep reading or do you want me to do it?
Sure. You know what? My brain is tired.
Stanford and Google researchers have been performing a series of, this is wild to me. We were actually talking last week about AI integration into games and how it might be able to go. So this is particularly very interesting.
Yeah, he messages me this white paper like earlier this week, like, that's basically what his message contents were.
That's honestly more accurate than I would like to admit. Stanford and Google researchers have been performing a series of experiments with similar AI-powered agents by having LLMs control 25 characters within a virtual town. The characters can communicate, interact with their environment, remember events, reflect on those events, and form plans. Each is preloaded with a starting persona and an existing relationship with the other characters in the game. Over the course of several in-world days, the characters engaged in a series of complex interactions based on those starting conditions. Researchers told this is the really cool part in my opinion, researchers told one generative agent to host a Valentine's Day party without any further human intervention. The character invited 9 other characters, who then passed on the information to 4 other characters beyond that. The characters remembered the invitation, reorganized their daily schedule in response to it, with one asking another officially on a like romantic date to the event.
Prove to me now that we are not living in a simulation.
Oh boy. We're doing the Silicon Valley tech bro conversation. You can't prove it's not a simulation. Yeah, I don't know. I think what this immediately made me think of is like, because you were talking about how like you want tailored conversations for your games.
Yeah.
Like you don't really want an LLM to just go in and write all the text for the game because you want it to
I want, it's kind of like, okay, it's kind of like playing Breath of the Wild compared to playing a game that has an auto-generated environment. Like, yeah, okay, you and I went, okay, these are examples that are pulled from vastly different eras of gaming. So I understand that they are not directly comparable. But we did a run of Diablo 1 a while back, just like, nighttime gaming. Those generated dungeons end up all kind of being samey.
Yep.
Like there's some difference in that you don't know what's around the next corner, sort of, but there's also no flow to them. Whereas exploring in Breath of the Wild, it's art.
Yes.
It's artful.
Yeah.
You will stumble upon things because there was an intentful, purposeful, whatever.
There's a narrative direction going on. There's a direction of things that you're supposed to experience when you go through different areas. And AI has an issue with hallucinations, as maybe I mentioned that in the pre-show, or getting distracted, as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
How they can get distracted or confused when tasks are really large. Tasking it with doing something that big, holding that narrative the whole way through. Current versions, right? Now, maybe I'm wrong in 2 months. I don't know. But current versions are going to struggle with that very seriously. But Skyrim style, like, you need to try to make sure that all the people have jobs that they go to every day and they do stuff and they react to the world. Those baseline, like, NPCs that aren't technically important.
Making environments feel populated.
Yes. Yeah.
Is going to be
super good at that.
Totally a different game.
Yeah.
It's just when it gets to dialogue, that's where I'm really not sure about it, because I don't want them to say something different if there isn't new content for me to engage with.
Yeah.
With that said,
Don't want to waste
it
your
is
time.
a matter of time before there's a game where you are just dumped into essentially an MMO that is entirely populated with AI agents that level up and quest and have jobs and build new towns for you to explore, to the point where when you go back and you re-engage, it is new stuff and things have happened and you do need to catch up on events, and it's happening constantly, all the time, everywhere. I mean, man, when we first started talking about Stadia and cloud gaming, I didn't realize it yet, but this is the kind of gaming experience that should have enabled. Imagine an Escape from Tarkov-like experience where you are warping into, but instead of an instance, a persistent world. And then you every 6 months or whatever it is, you do a wipe, and it's a brand new world.
I feel like hardcore gameplay actually benefits from this, like, more. Like, imagine a permadeath RPG.
Oh.
But your effects 100% remain. And I know there's roguelikes that go in this direction already. Someone already mentioned it, but like SAO, yeah, if you've watched the like first half season of SAO, the good part, it's kind of like the impacts of your previous character. Not only are they detectable, as they are sometimes in like roguelike games, but they like extremely impact the world.
And there's this butterfly effect where someone comes in, murders the son of some AI agent baker who swears vengeance on every player character.
So then
and this
there's
town
like a plague put through the town through the bread sold at the bakery.
And you could have all these different attributes that could even be slightly RNG'd that apply to these NPCs, and depending on how people interact with them, they could turn into you could not even assign a big baddie to this world.
Yeah.
There could just be many potential big baddies that form.
There could be forces that are aligned against each other, and then through natural events of them, wanting to gain position on each other, big baddies just are created dynamically in the world. Could be super interesting.
Hideo Kojima apparently had the idea of a Raw game. This is according to Floatplane Chat, back in 1998. And apparently it's something kind of like this. Someday
you can tell game developers have wanted to do this type of stuff for a long time.
Well, it's one of the holy grails. It's like true physics-based object interaction. Attempts have been made.
Yeah.
And even games where
really
it plays a significant role in gameplay, whether we're talking about Rainbow Six or some of the earlier Battlefield games, destructible environments, it's been done. But nothing would be like a persistent environment where you can, maybe not quite like a Minecraft or Fortnite, but where you can build and also destroy realistically. Nothing like that actually exists.
I feel like it increases how much you care about your decisions in the game, because your decisions in the game are going to impact your next playthrough, but in a more serious way than most games that attempt to do that right now actually will.
The way looting in towns or encampments or whatever else would work, because if those agents are stealing from other player characters and from each other, and if there are enough AI agents that are working the land, producing raw materials and resources, the world, this game world, will naturally become enriched over time.
If you do the classic Legend of Zelda smash all the pots in like your favorite town, you could like bankrupt the town.
Oh wow, I didn't even think of that.
Like, you're gonna have to actually not be a big jerk unless that's what you want for the world.
Or it could be full of really good stuff because it's secret. After 10 p.m. This town is cannibal mode.
You think they're really cool, but but they're actually like stealing and cannibalizing the areas around them or whatever. Yeah. Dwarf Fortress, Dwarf Fortress with this would be sick.
Oh no.
They do have a persistent mode.
Yeah,
actually.
There's a lot of games that have done these types of things. I'm struggling to describe what I'm trying to say, but I think this is going to enable a new level of it, if you know what I mean.
See, Dark24 in Floatplane Chat says that would never work in a multiplayer game because people are trolls. But that's the thing. If you have an expansive enough world and enough of these AI agents, well, they're going to learn from the behavior that they see. And you're going to create a very adversarial type of world. I think what you could probably do is you could tailor the gaming experience by having worlds with different rules. So the AI agents all start with the same basic, alignments or the same basic resources or jobs or whatever else it is. But in some worlds, there's no player versus player. Or in some worlds, there's no player versus good aligned NPCs, or whatever these baseline rules are. And I think that would really alter the course of the world's development, and people could pick their play style based on what type of world they select to warp into.
Yeah, and like if you're in a like full PvP enabled world, and the players do just attack everything all the time, it would make sense for the agents to start training themselves more aggressively, investing in armaments, whatnot.
And if you created a world that had lesser resources in certain regions, well, those would be lower level regions. So you could still have, kind of similar to what you'd see in an MMO, you could still have a training area where PvP is disabled and, all the AI agents are kind of serfs
you'd have
or
to
whatever.
turn it off, because you couldn't actually nerf the NPCs too far, or else all the low-level areas would just disappear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting. So yeah, what about ruining the game economy by selling too many materials in a town? Like if you sell too much bread in a town, you could bankrupt the baker. Some of these types of systems already exist.
Yeah.
But the Quake impacts of them across the world.
I feel like it would be self-balancing to a point, right? Because if there's a fixed amount of resource, anytime someone amasses too much, someone's going to be gunning for them.
Oh, so like you have like assassins coming after you or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. If you have to actually cart your goods around.
Oh, that's a really interesting thing. So you just add these realism counterbalances to the ways that people will try to break the game. And it's obviously something that will be broken in a new way every wipe.
It would have to be really, really hard.
It's the kind of game.
It would have to be like realism hard.
It's the kind of game that you could play forever.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Anyways, the discussion questions for this topic are: what are the likely applications and limitations of this type of technology? What kind of difference would it make in people's lives if they had this kind of AI assistant? The most interesting, like actually use it myself use case that I think I saw was that the groceries one.
Yeah,
because we've talked like there's been oh, this fridge will like reorder milk for you or whatever. But that seemed to have kind of gone away. I don't know if it didn't work that well or what.
I mean, probably.
But I haven't heard people talk about it in like a long time.
They're fridges, so they were made by appliance manufacturers.
So the software
which should
is probably trash.
tell you how good the software was.
But like I also know a lot of people that say like one of the most annoying things they have to do every week is like figure out what the heck they're going to eat. So if you can just tell it like, I like these things, I need groceries for a week, and it can just figure it out for you, I think a lot of people would just be happy with that. I don't know. And if it can actually order the groceries for you and they just like show up.
And then what's great is the longer you interact with it, the better it gets, because you can say, this was great, this was trash, this was a 7 out of 10.
This was too hard to cook. This was too boring to cook, if that's a metric that you care about. I don't have the right tools to cook this one. Different things like that.
There's a lot of sort of media, whether it's games or movies, that people are pointing out as similar to what we've been talking about. It's pretty similar to the premise of Free
been
Guy.
Around forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's exciting right now is that there's a path to it.
Yeah.
A realistic path to this gaming experience existing, because up until now,
at levels of depth that we haven't really seen,
we've reached a point where creating a next generation gaming experience has become functionally impossible. I mean, look at the budget. Look at the time they spent on GTA 5. Yeah. You know, look at how long CD Projekt Red was working on Cyberpunk. Look how long they've been working on the next generation Witcher game. Because to handcraft every element of the environments and interactivity and questing and items and whatever it is no longer feasible if you're trying to make a bigger game than what came last, especially now that games as a service is such a pervasive concept within the industry. Because GTA 6 doesn't just have to be bigger than GTA 5. It has to be bigger than GTA 5 plus the 10 flipping years of work that they've done on GTA 5 since they launched it. It's actually impossible.
It's pretty ridiculous.
You can't. You can't catch up to yourself.
There's also
who's been running for 10 years.
There's also reward systems in games that are holding that type of stuff back. This is a slightly different conversation, but like CS:GO 2 or whatever is coming. I don't get access because I'm not a cool streamer person. But they were one of the first things in their announcement was talking about how like, yes, don't worry, you'll be able to keep your skins. That doesn't work that great for every game.
Yeah.
It does work really well for Counter-Strike.
Yeah, but like, where's my Oblivion horse armor now?
Yeah. What if the next game doesn't have horses?
And so they don't want to create, you don't want to create an environment where people feel like, well, I would be a whale and I would spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on this game.
But there's a new one coming and I can't take my stuff with me.
And you see the kind of backlash that developers are getting from, we're going to do a new one and forget about your old stuff. Oh, man. Shoot, who was it?
Not Overwatch.
No. New version coming, old version turned off game. Hold on. Crap.
That's why Tarkov's wipe system is great. Yeah, I think it just needs to wipe like
Is it
more
Arc?
often.
Is that the one?
Arc? A lot of people are saying Arc. I don't know much about Arc.
Yeah, I think people are upset about Arc because they have a new one coming, and then they uploaded a remaster, or they released a remaster of the original, even though the second one is coming. But then they wanted to charge for the remaster, and they were going to disable access to the first one.
Oh.
So essentially, it was like a forced upgrade to Arc 1.1 when Arc 2 was coming or something like that.
That's gross.
Yeah, so that's not quite related to what we were talking about, actually, now that I think about it a bit more. But it's a way that game developers are going to have to figure out, or it's an example of how game developers are going to have to figure out how to manage this relationship as they rev their software, knowing that their previous games as a service either isn't gone or either is gone and they have to figure out how to smooth that over, or isn't gone and they have to incentivize people to move on to the next thing.
Apparently, it's not just a remaster, but you have to repay for all of the DLCs.
Nice.
That's ridiculous.
Speaking of moving on,
yeah.
Why don't we talk about our next big... Oh, hold on a second.
Do we want to jump to a non-AI?
Riley says, Luke, look at this.
What?
quote unquote, a really big deal. Dolly is a free open source ChatGPT style AI model.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we've we've talked about a few different open source ChatGPT style models.
oh, this is just what you're talking about, where you bring the whole processing load
locally.
Local.
Yeah. So there's a couple of these that are already out. I think this is literally trained off of the predecessors, like Llama and Alpaca. I think it's just a better, more advanced version of those. I haven't looked super deeply into this, but I do believe it's essentially the same deal, but just much stronger than Llama and Alpaca were.
All right. Let's talk about
really big deal, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I haven't downloaded this and ran it myself yet, but as far as my understanding goes, it's just a way more advanced version of those.